Item Number SCP-254 Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-254 is to be kept in a standard storage locker when not in use. When in storage, it must be placed face down on the floor of the locker and secured with straps to prevent accidental activation. Use of SCP-254 may be requested by any department head and must be approved by at least 2 Level 3 personnel. SCP-254 may not be used in a capacity that will result in SCP-2541's contact with SCPs posing a memetic contagion hazard. Under no circumstances is SCP-254 to be active in a single department or area for longer than 26 days. Reuse is permitted only if the area in question has undergone a complete personnel rotation, i.e., no employees remain who have had previous contact with SCP-254. Description: SCP-254 is a rectangular wooden plaque measuring 22 centimeters by 30 centimeters and weighing approximately 1.5 kilograms. On the front of the plaque is an empty brass picture holder, as well as a printed metal plate with a black background and gold-colored letters reading Employee of the Month. Affixed to the back of the plaque is a standard hanging device. SCP-254 was discovered in the rubble of a Texaco gas station in Kansas in 1950. A Foundation agent secured SCP-254 after discovering that it had sustained no damage in the explosion that had leveled the gas station and resulted in the deaths of numerous employees and civilians. When SCP-254 is hung on a wall in a work area of 4 or more people, SCP-2541 will appear soon afterward. SCP-2541 will arrive either at the end of the next designated break period or at the beginning of the following work shift. SCP-2541 is an incorporeal human of variable gender, age, race, name, and appearance, able to manipulate objects in the manner similar to that of a normal human, of average strength and coordination. SCP-2541 will adopt the appearance and persona of a model employee, based on an area's memetic consensus. Once SCP-2541's appearance has been established, an image of SCP-2541 that appears to be an 8x10 glossy photograph fills the empty picture holder, and it will not change until SCP-254 is moved to a new location. Across the bottom of the photograph, in print, is the newly assumed name of SCP-2541. The photograph cannot be removed from the picture holder by any known means, but it can be torn or ripped. Doing so in an aggressive or purposeful manner results in a violent reaction from SCP-2541. Regardless of appearance, SCP-2541 maintains a cheerful demeanor at all times. SCP-2541 is able to carry on conversations about the weather, traffic, the previous night's TV shows, sports, and other such topics, although SCP-2541 will never discuss topics of which present individuals have no knowledge. Personnel assigned to work in an area where SCP-254 is in use do not appear alarmed by SCP-254's incorporeal nature or sudden appearance, stating that SCP-2541, quote, works here. Due to local personnel's reluctance to remove the plaque, or inability to remember to remove the plaque, removal is to be scheduled and performed by off-site personnel. SCP-2541 is capable of performing menial tasks quickly and efficiently. When given tasks that require specialized training, although SCP-2541 does not possess the required expertise, she will attempt them with the usual good attitude, but will perform as well as an average person could be expected to perform. SCP-2541 will continue to perform as exemplary an employee as possible for a length of time between 28 to 46 workdays, usually ending at the conclusion of a calendar month. If SCP-254 is placed in a workplace several days into a calendar month, SCP-2541 will act as an effective employee until the end of the following month, although, due to the dangers posed by shifting memetic consensus, no use of SCP-254 for longer than 26 days is permitted. After the month has passed, if SCP-254 is not removed, SCP-2541 will begin to degrade in performance, beginning with an unhelpful attitude and forgetfulness. If SCP-254 is not removed, SCP-2541 will become a worse and worse employee until, quote, fired. Firing can be represented by removing SCP-254 from the wall, or by informing SCP-2541 of its termination. If SCP-2541 is fired within approximately 20 days from the start of its decline in performance, SCP-2541 simply leaves the area and disappears. Following cessation of employment after this point, SCP-2541 will actively sabotage the work area in the most destructive manner possible, posing severe hazard to any nearby personnel. And the world, people! We work with SCPs here, and if proper removal arrangements are not made with off-site security and documented with on-site security, the offending employee will find themselves jobless, or worse. 05 Addendum. Following Incident 254-0210G, all tests on employing SCP-2541 beyond 26 days must be conducted at a separate site containing no other SCPs. No exceptions. 05 Audio Log 254-A13. Doctor. This is Dr. This is experiment number 13 on SCP-254. I am using a standard Phillips head screwdriver to attempt to remove the brass fitting from SCP-254. There are 15 seconds of tool working sounds. It appears that these screws are affixed by means beyond the normal, perhaps glue or something else. SCP-2541, going by Gus this iteration. Would you like me to get you some solvent, sir? Doctor. No thanks, Gus. No need. Would you hand me that box cutter? I'll try cutting this picture out. Gus. Really? Why would you want to do that? I think that plaque looks Jim Dandy right where it is. Doctor. Now. This isn't an insult to you, Gus. You're a great employee. This is an experiment. Gus. Okay, Doc. I trust you. There's a slight paper ripping noise. Gus. What you doing, Doc? Would you please not do that? Doctor. Just a little bit The audio of the two cuts out, and there are 5 hard banging sounds. Presumably, SCP-2541 slamming Dr. head against the table. Then there is a wet sound, as the box cutter is data expunged. End of tape. Experiment Log 254-B. Testing on extended employment of SCP-2541 as a janitor at Sector Day 26. End of standard employment period reached. SCP-2541's performance continues to meet high standards. Day 32. First sign of performance degradation noted. SCP-2541 leaves a dirty rag on one of the research assistant's desk. Apologetic when rag is noticed and returned. Day 34. SCP-2541 is mopping the floor in Sector when a hurrying technician trips over the bucket of cleaning solution. SCP-2541 recorded cursing at the technician. Day 35. End of the calendar month. SCP-2541 described as sullen by a late-working researcher. Break room kitchen in Sector left uncleaned. Coffee spilled around Dr. garbage can. Day 36. SCP-2541 reprimanded by supervisor for apparent drunkenness. Note: very odd. SCP-2541 has never been seen to eat or drink. Day 39. SCP-2541 fails to return cleaning solutions to the janitorial closet. Near disaster when mentally disturbed test subject finds a bottle of ammonia-based cleaner in a bathroom. SCP-2541 reprimanded for carelessness. A fellow janitor observed in a verbal altercation with SCP-2541. Both parties are somewhat vague on the cause of the quarrel. Day 43. SCP-2541 again observed to be apparently drunk on duty. Cleaning is becoming noticeably more erratic. Day 48. Fire alarm goes off in Sector. False alarm. Ink markers failed to pinpoint a culprit, but SCP-2541 was observed near the tripped alarm a few minutes prior to the incident. Security footage unavailable due to an unidentifiable object blocking the camera's view of the hallway. Day 56. Dr. upbraids SCP-2541 for removing perishable items from the lab refrigerator and shredding irreplaceable experiment logs. SCP-2541 calls said doctor data expunged and threatens to data expunged. Security called. Day 58. Kitchen knife found stabbed deeply into Dr. whiteboard. Said doctor's locked secure document safe has been opened and rifled. Guard posted at the door to said doctor's office. SCP-2541 recorded arguing with undisclosed in raised voices in the staff break room. Day 59. Janitor S. signs into work, but fails to report to supervisor. Located by accident several hours later, trapped in the cold storage rooms, attached to an autopsy theater, suffering from severe hypothermia. Guard on duty at Dr. office incapacitated by a blow to the head. Crude human figure formed from a mop head impaled on a broken mop handle, driven through Dr. desk chair. SCP-2541, nowhere to be found. Day 60. At Dr. request, SCP-254 removed from the wall. SCP-2541 leaves the building and vanishes. Day 61. SCP-2541 caught on camera in Sector late at night. Power failure and multiple backup system failures caused several containment breaches, resulting in numerous direct casualties and a few further losses from sterilization of an outbreak of SCP. Item Number: SCP-277. Object Class: Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. Due to the difficulties inherent in containing SCP-277, it has been placed under a level lockdown. Activities of the residents of SCP-277 must be monitored by no less than embedded agents, and civilians are not to be aware of Foundation presence or influence. Any attempts to contact civilians within SCP-277 by those outside SCP-277 must be investigated. Personnel must undergo psychological screening before being assigned to SCP-277. Description: SCP-277 is a moderately populated town and the principal anomaly within SCP-277 are apparitions found throughout the area that seem to be images projected from children's thoughts or imagination. These are collectively referred to as SCP-2771. Incidents of SCP-2771 appear as figures drawn in white outlines, with no physical substantiality of their own. The size, style in which they are drawn, and the complexity of the projections vary from child to child. Prepubescent children are the only individuals capable of producing such incidents, and the process of projecting one seems for the most part to be unconscious and involuntary. An average of incidents of SCP-2771 are present at any given time within the area. While embedded agents are requested to report potentially uncategorized children to their supervisors to be examined, due to the size of SCP-277, the prepubescent population there within, and security complications, this is recognized as occasionally unfeasible. Incidences of SCP-2771 are capable of interacting with each other, although physical objects pass through, leaving no damage to either party. Children frequently play with their projections, and the existence of SCP-2771 is regarded as normal by residents of the town. Civilians in SCP-277 claim that the projections have been present within the town since its colonization. This claim is dubious at best, as there are no records of the area's existence before the year 2000, and the towns immediately surrounding the area deny any knowledge of the city. Testing of members within SCP-277 revealed that their dental, fingerprint, and DNA records correspond with no recorded population databases. When under questioning, Civilians denied having memories of living or traveling anywhere but within SCP-277. Operation 277. Update the first. Attempt number to evacuate SCP-277 has commenced. On 6/15, small changes were made to the previously detailed methods of evacuation, namely expunged, in hopes of avoiding what may have caused previous failures. Residents continue to deny any memory of previous evacuation attempts. Personnel members involved in previous assignments involving the suppression of SCP-2771 and SCP-2771-R in particular seem to have been expunged. More trained personnel and Class D subjects are requested, along with the necessary medical equipment, in the event of another such incident. Operation 277. Update the second. As of 6/23, Operation 277 has proven unsuccessful due to data corrupted. SCP-2771-R demonstrated the ability to render mental damage not only to prepubescents, but to physically mature agents. No further evacuation attempts are to be carried out. Level lockdown suggested. Dr. R. Foundation personnel have been unable to trace the source of file Operation 277. Foundation databanks have been unable to produce an unexpunged copy of the file. No personnel or civilians in the area are able to recall any attempts made to evacuate, and the legitimacy of the file has been called into question multiple times. As per common consensus, however, no further evacuation efforts have been planned. Furthermore, it has been discovered that when a resident of SCP-277 leaves the area for several minutes, they are violently data expunged, and then may be found within the area, with no memory of departing from the area. Addendum 277-A. As of 9/14, an unaccounted for SCP-2771 was photographed in the local library by a Foundation agent. No one in the vicinity claimed to be responsible for the projection. As the appearance and actions of incidents of SCP-2771 are often telling of a child's psychological profile, efforts are being taken to identify the owner of these projections, designated SCP-2771-R. Projections that match the image shown in drawing style or behavior are to be reported immediately. Addendum 277-B. Sightings of projections that are similar to SCP-277-R have tripled in frequency. Since 9/23, on 10/5, there were several child casualties made by members of SCP-277-R upon children's projections. Interview 277-A. Interviewed: Agent Davis. Interviewer: Dr. A. Begin log. Dr. A. Right then. Please begin at the point where you first saw the SCP-277. Agent Davis. Well, I was walking to a local diner after the end of my shift when I saw a cluster of them across the street. Dr. A. It would be helpful if you could include as many details as you can recall, Davis. Agent Davis. They were in the form of, rabbits. Most of those are, for some reason. Regular kids imagine things from spaceships to magic beanstalks within an hour, but all I've seen drawn in that style are rabbits. They were huddled at a street intersection, watching the passing people and cars, I think. They don't move very much or play like the other sketches. That's what the personnel there have taken to calling them, sketches. Mostly they watch others. Dr. A. You weren't alarmed by them. Agent Davis. What? No, they were pretty common by then. They didn't really do anything hostile, so the hype about them had calmed down. Dr. A. Noted. Please continue. Agent Davis. Right. Well, after I walked by them, I heard this kid scream from behind me. Little girl, maybe 8 years old. She'd been playing with her sketch when I passed, this winged pony thing. So I turn around and one of the rabbits is on her sketch. I've never seen anything moving that fast, and it was the closest thing I can think of is consuming it, while the girl was going into some type of seizure. I had trouble making sense of what I was seeing at first. It looked like one huge white scribble in the air. There was no helping the girl. I was holding her so she wouldn't hurt her head against the concrete, but I'm no doctor. More of the rabbits had reached other sketches by then, and those sketches too were being torn apart, and the kids were all screaming. And according to the documents I've been given, this was happening all over the town, right? Dr. A. That's correct. Agent Davis. I unloaded a load of shots into the thing, but of course that didn't help. Don't really know why I did that. They're all in comas now, aren't they? The kids? Dr. A. Yes, they are. I think that will be all, Agent Davis. Agent Davis. One last thing. Dr. A. Yes. Agent Davis. May I request to be transferred out of SCP-277? Dr. A. You have already been reassigned to SCP... Agent Davis. Thanks. Goodbye then, Doctor. End log. Update. 3 months following this incident, members of SCP-277-R have vanished from the area. It is still unknown whether they were projections from a child or a manifestation native to SCP-277 itself. Addendum 277-C. Inquiries made to civilians regarding the incident on 10/5 have returned with mixed results. A number of the residents claimed that they had never witnessed such an occurrence before and expressed desire for Foundation officials to quickly identify and prosecute the perpetrator. Others claim that similar events happen periodically, every years. Personnel staffing SCP-277 have expressed discomfort when dealing with members of the town. They smile too wide, as if this entire place is just a fairy tale, and that massacre was just part of their happy ending. Agent J. Item number: SCP-280. Object Class: Keter. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-280 is to be contained in a 5x5 meter cell, and no equipment of any kind is to be left inside when staff are not present. Containment area is to be kept in total darkness at all times. Any items taken into the containment cell must be removed by staff at the end of testing, and any staff entering into containment must wear infrared goggles and be equipped with an infrared ID strobe and a strong flashlight. In the event of an SCP-280 attack, all staff are to power on their flashlights and illuminate the subject under attack. No aggressive action is to be taken against SCP-280, and staff are to keep 1 meter from SCP-280 at all times. Staff should continue to illuminate SCP-280 until it retreats to a sufficient distance to allow the recovery and extraction of the subject of the attack. Description: SCP-280 is a black human-shaped mass with 2 large white eyes on the head and 2 hands with very long and thin fingers. No feet or legs are visible, as the lower portion of the body appears to fade away several centimeters from the ground. SCP-280 appears to be wholly composed of a matter that can gain or lose corporeal form. This matter is very black, with only the eyes showing any other color, and when changing to a non-corporeal form, looks much like smoke. The eyes are non-functioning and appear only when SCP-280 is retreating, appearing to be used like eye spots on some insects. SCP-280 is very strong and has been observed pulling apart steel with its hands, showing no sign of stress. SCP-280 moves with a gliding motion, with its hands extended, described as a sleepwalker pose by observers. SCP-280 will move slowly towards any human beings and attempt to attack them. SCP-280 appears to sense human life. No limit has yet been found on this ability. SCP-280 will approach to within 14 centimeters of a subject, and then use its hands to pull and tear at the subject, causing massive physical trauma. The attack can last between 1 and 5 minutes, and will continue until the death of the subject, at which point, SCP-280 will expose its eyes, lose corporeal form, and move to the next human. If no humans are present, SCP-280 will move and ball up against a wall or other structure until a human being is again present. SCP-280 will retreat slowly from light, exposing its eyes in the direction of the light or at any nearby humans. This has been described as extremely disconcerting by those who have been stared at. If the area that SCP-280 currently resides in becomes fully illuminated, or there is a very bright burst of light, SCP-280 will fade away and reappear in another area. This appears to be done purely as a defensive response to light, and will not be used to follow or attack prey. SCP-280 does not appear to eat, breathe, or sleep. It does not ingest any of the tissue removed during an attack, and simply drops it to tear a new piece. Due to its ability to become incorporeal at will and its aggressive nature, no samples of SCP-280 have been collected. Addendum. Notes on recovery. SCP-280 was recovered in Mississippi after several reports of locked room murders and child deaths. All were reported as being extremely vicious, and victims were, quote, horribly mangled. The Foundation became involved after a family of 5 was murdered in their home. A survivor was found in the basement, 9-year-old David, who had come over for a sleepover. He was found in an advanced state of shock, holding a flashlight and unresponsive to outside stimulus. During an investigation of the basement, an officer was attacked and badly mutilated. His statement attracted the interest of Foundation agents. During recovery, SCP-280 was temporarily lost due to its ability to teleport when exposed to high levels of light. It was also observed that SCP-280 is frequently discounted as a shadow when seen in the dark, or dismissed as clothing, hair, or another object when accidentally touched in the dark. When tracking a subject, SCP-280 will remain incorporeal until the moment of attack, causing some to walk very close to or through SCP-280. Subjects report a feeling of dread and unease when inside SCP-280. SCP-280 usually does not respond to this, but will sometimes expose its eyes and enter its retreating posture when passed through. No pattern has emerged for this behavior. Addendum. Notes following testing. During a series of extensive testing of the effects of various illumination sources on SCP-280's retreat reflex, SCP-280 broke containment. SCP-280 was observed to repeatedly appear and dissipate throughout the illuminated site, progressing through the sublevels, and eventually appearing in SCP-1591's containment chamber. Upon being exposed to SCP-1591, SCP-280 displayed its eyes, but did not retreat. The entity paused and knelt for several minutes before demanifestation. SCP-280 reappeared in its cell several hours later without incident. Item Number: SCP-293. Object Class: Keter. Special Containment Procedures. Any items affected by SCP-293 are to be contained in an opaque container and kept sealed when not undergoing testing. Any items found to be affecting staff or subjects not undergoing testing are to be immediately destroyed. Any anomalous activity by SCP-293 affected items is to be reported to Site Command as soon as possible. Anyone interacting with items affected by SCP-293 must do so only in 30-minute shifts, with 1 week of time separating each interaction. This includes physical handling, observation, both physical and via camera or other recording device, testing, and any other activities that bring an SCP-293 affected item into contact with human beings. All staff working with SCP-293 affected items must submit to a psychological evaluation 3 times per week, to begin 2 weeks before interaction, and extending for 3 weeks after the end of interaction. Staff must also submit to any additional test as ordered by Site Command. Anyone found to be affected by SCP-293 will be placed in quarantine, and the item causing the effect is to be immediately destroyed. Any items used to interact with SCP-293 affected items are to be disposed of after 1 week. Description: SCP-293 is currently held to be some form of intangible force or presence. Questions have been raised regarding a possible intelligence behind SCP-293 in light of subjects' reactions. However, these are still unfounded. SCP-293 is most visible in its effect on human behavior, and is only detectable in very advanced cases as a very slight auditory disturbance. This lack of presence forms the major issue with SCP-293 detection, as it is almost impossible to detect if items or people are infected by SCP-293 without long-term observation. SCP-293 bonds to physical items, in most cases, small, lightweight items. However, larger items, such as cars, trees, and, in one case, a 2-story residential home, are not unknown. SCP-293 will spread to new items if they are left in close, 2 meters or less, proximity for several weeks. SCP-293 does not appear to bond to living things, and its effect is only visible in humans. It is unknown how SCP-293 spreads to new items, or what the criteria are for an item to be bonded. However, there appears to be a higher probability of bonding for items that can be easily carried or transported in a human hand. SCP-293 causes those affected by it to become progressively obsessed with the item it is bonded to. This process appears to be accelerated by observation and physical contact with the item affected by SCP-293. Subject will rapidly become withdrawn and antisocial, and react violently to anyone attempting to touch or remove the item. Subject's actions toward the bonded item will begin to take on parental aspects in 78% of cases, with the subject rocking, cleaning, and attending to the object as if it were not an inanimate object. Attempts to interrupt these rituals or bring attention to the inappropriateness of this behavior will cause the subject to enter an extreme state of fear, depression, or anger, which persists for an extended period of time. In many cases, the obsession and ritual cycle of SCP-293 will grow to the point where the subject is unable to function normally, needing constant contact with the SCP-293 bonded item. Subjects will show a marked and progressive impairment of performance in simple tasks, such as preparing food, engaging in personal hygiene, or sleeping. In the 22% of cases with non-parental attachment with SCP-293, subjects may also begin to engage in personal abuse and damage, believing that they are being ordered to do so. Mental and physical degradation in both cases are often directly related to cause of death. Attempting to remove the item from the subject will cause the subject to enter a violent, fearful, depressed, hysterical, or one of many other mental states. These episodes are nearly impossible to end, except by the return of the item, or several months of separation. Subjects will become more and more erratic and hysterical the longer they are separated, and will violently attack others to reacquire the item. Subjects will often commit suicide after several days of separation from, or loss of, the SCP-293 affected item. The Foundation currently has 182 items affected by SCP-293 in storage. It is unknown at this time how many items worldwide may be affected by SCP-293, and questions have been raised as to SCP-293 and its possible relationship to several other SCP items, and the exploits of some serial murderers. Item Number: SCP-301. Object Class: Euclid. Special Containment Procedures: SCP-301 is to be kept in a secure electromagnetically sealed bunker, buried under at least 10 meters of earth to conceal its location. The bunker is to be staffed by no fewer than 4 Level 3 security personnel at all times, in order to secure the site and to maintain automated security measures. The perimeter of the bunker is to be lined with a chain-link fence, with official warnings to deter intruders. Due to the remote location of SCP-301, additional security is not required. During experimentation, all research staff and equipment must maintain a minimum distance of at least 3 meters from the projected edge of SCP-301. In the event of a containment breach, on-site personnel with the proper security clearance are authorized to implement Emergency Protocol C-301. All possible entrances to the bunker will automatically seal themselves and remain sealed indefinitely. Emergency Protocol C-301 can only be countermanded by an O5 level command. Description: SCP-301 is an anomalous region roughly 3 meters in diameter, located in the middle of National Park. Whenever physical matter enters SCP-301, it temporarily disappears from existence. Following a delay of variable length, the matter that had entered SCP-301 will appear in another location. The duration of this time delay is variable, with a minimum length of seconds and a maximum length of minutes. The exact destination appears to be a random vertex point on a geodesic grid overlaying the Earth's surface. Each leg of this pattern is approximately 20 kilometers long, resulting in possible destination points. The prevailing model of SCP-301's workings is that teleportation occurs by accessing a coterminous interspatial region, lying in a frame of reference attached to the center of the Earth. SCP-301 is invisible to the naked eye, but is detectable through other spectra. SCP-301 also passively emits electromagnetic energy. While not harmful to living organisms, it does interfere with improperly shielded electronics, and may explain why the native fauna does not venture near SCP-301. Through experimentation, it has been discovered that SCP-301 can accommodate any kind of physical matter with certain size thresholds. The maximum size object that SCP-301 can accommodate can be no larger than SCP-301's 3-meter diameter. There is also a minimum limit, though this is based on density rather than size. Currently, most gases and anything on a molecular level are not affected by SCP-301. For further details, see the experiment logs. SCP-301 was discovered when there was a spike in disappearances of hikers and tourists in said national park, only for several of them to be rediscovered far from the site of their disappearance. The Foundation did not act until it received reports of one of the missing hikers being found in France and another near New South Wales, Australia. Subsequent interviews with these individuals produced inconsistent descriptions of the event, even after the use of Subject 301A1, retrieved in France, described the transfer as a floating sensation with a mild forward impetus, accompanied by the ringing of thousands of huge bells, and smelling like wet dog and wood smoke, but having no other sensory components. However, Subject 301A2, retrieved near New South Wales, Australia, described it as a floating sensation with no sense of forward momentum, but including a salty taste, prickling feeling, like a foot going to sleep over the entire body, and being able to see stringy stuff surrounding the subject. Both subjects were administered a Class A amnestic and released. While searching for the anomaly at said national park, Agents S and R accidentally entered SCP-301. They disappeared for approximately minutes, until the signals from their locator beacons were reacquired kilometers and kilometers from their last recorded position respectively. Agent S's body was recovered by a deep water retrieval team, 43 kilometers south-southwest of India. Agent R was recovered near Angola, suffering from exposure, malaria, and amoebic dysentery. Foundation personnel were able to debrief Agent R before he died. Agent R characterized the teleportation experience as being swept by a strong current that stank of shit. He also stated that he saw flames, and reported hearing sand falling and tasting sugar, then dirt, in a repeating cycle. Agent R died 2 days later. Based on the agent's testimony, SCP-301 was found to be located on a regularly used hiking trail. The Foundation rerouted the hiking trail and built the current facility containing SCP-301. From information gathered from Subjects 301A1 and 301A2 and Agent R, it appears that the interspatial region accessed upon entering SCP-301 is experienced differently by each subject. This experience can manifest as a wide variety of sensory phenomena, including tactile, gustatory, olfactory, visual, oral, and kinetic sensations. Experimentation with Class D personnel to further study this aspect of SCP-301 is recommended. A selection of post-experiment analyses are collected in Experiment Log 301-C. Experiment Log 301-A. Using remote exploration in conjunction with ongoing live experimentation, we have managed to map out much of the geodesic grid that SCP-301 teleportation follows. While this has resulted in the discovery of a large number of sites that require Foundation monitoring, many of these sites are in locations that make monitoring them a moot point, i.e., the dozens of egress points that open in the middle of the ocean. Dr. Experiment Log 301B. After increasing the size of test materials, we finally found that SCP-301 cannot accommodate items larger than itself. If a piece of matter that exceeds SCP-301's 3-meter diameter is placed on SCP-301, there will be no effect. This has been noted for future containment protocols. There is also a minimum limit for what SCP-301 can accommodate. We've filled the containment room with easily detectable gases, as well as bombarding SCP-301 with radioactive particles. However, there is no evidence of any of these substances being successfully transported. The prevailing hypothesis is that SCP-301's minimum limit is based on density rather than size. Solids and liquids are affected, while gases and individual molecules are not. Dr. Experiment Log 301C. Entries include subject identification number, egress point, and trip duration, followed by a listing of major sensory elements of the teleportation experience. Note that, for recovery purposes, all test subjects are equipped with a remote beacon harness that reports the subject's GPS coordinates to a Foundation satellite every 15 seconds, from anywhere on Earth. Subject: D05738. Egress point: Iowa, United States. Duration: minutes. Kinetic: none. Visual: none. Auditory: none. Olfactory: none. Tactile: sensation of slimy tendrils moving over subject's body. Gustatory: none. Other notes: none. Subject: D09983. Egress point: China. Duration: minutes. Kinetic: floating sensation, as though suspended in liquid. Visual: a red transparent liquid environment. Subject reports seeing many red blood cell-like objects of approximately 3 centimeters to 50 centimeters in diameter. Subject also reports seeing a very large shadowy object moving in the distance. Auditory: none. Olfactory: none. Tactile: none. Gustatory: coppery taste. Other notes: subject reports feeling as though they are about to drown throughout duration of transfer. Subject: D25684. Egress point: Mexico. Duration: seconds. Kinetic: rapid flying sensation. Visual: subject reports seeing the terrain they would normally have traveled through to reach the endpoint of the teleportation process. They also report being unable to see their body. See below. Auditory: rushing wind. Olfactory: fresh bread. Tactile: none. Gustatory: none. Other notes: subject also reports seeing a variety of semi-transparent organisms during transit. These creatures data expunged. Subject: D56001. Egress point: Germany. Duration: minutes. Kinetic: none. Visual: none. Auditory: none. Olfactory: none. Tactile: none. Gustatory: none. Other notes: subject retrieved exhibiting strong schizophrenia interspersed with lengthy periods of catatonia. This is the first time exposure to SCP-301 has resulted in this level of mental trauma. Subject: D56187. Egress point: near Brazil. Duration: seconds. Kinetic: gentle forward movement. Visual: Unknown. Subject rendered blind and cannot recall any visual stimuli from his time in SCP-301. Auditory. None. Olfactory. None. Tactile. Spots of cold moving across the left arm. Gustatory. None. Other notes. First instance of exposure to SCP-301 causing a physical change in subject. Subject. D58092. Egress point. Near Laos. Duration. Minutes. Kinetic. Free fall. Visual. None. Auditory. A repeating complex multitonal scale. Foundation staff are currently attempting to recreate this scale. Olfactory. Acetic acid. Vinegar. Tactile. None. Gustatory. None. Other notes. Those sensors reported a second delay between the subject entering SCP-301 and reappearing at the destination. D58092 insisted that she had been in SCP-301 for several days. The possibility of a time dilation effect should be investigated. Subject. D60014. Egress point. Near Canada. Duration. Seconds. Kinetic. Flying sensation. Described as oddly slow. Visual. Subject reports seeing an unknown number of interlocking gears as far as she can see. Auditory. Grinding gears. Olfactory. Machine oil. Tactile. None. Gustatory. None. Other notes. Upon return, subject exhibited an unusual fascination with machinery. 3 days later, subject D60014 began asking personnel about several mechanical SCP objects, including a number of other SCPs, designation numbers expunged, and displaying knowledge about them that only level 4 or higher staff could know. Subject interrogated and terminated, 15 days ahead of schedule. Subject. D60445. Egress point. Near Siberia, Russia. Duration. Minutes. Kinetic. Unknown. Visual. Unknown. Auditory. Unknown. Olfactory. Unknown. Tactile. Unknown. Gustatory. Unknown. Other notes. Subject found bisected along the coronal plane. Cause unknown. Subject. D61429. Egress point. Near Florida, United States. Duration. Minutes. Kinetic. Floating. Visual. Painfully bright white light. Auditory. Shouting voices. Like everyone in the whole world was shouting at me at once. No individual words could be discerned. Olfactory. None. Tactile. Pain over the entire body. Described as like having red-hot needles stabbing every inch of me. Gustatory. None. Other notes. Subject reports being watched and being judged by unknown entities. Subject. D62225. Egress point. Near Niger. Duration. Minutes. Kinetic. Unknown. Visual. Unknown. Auditory. Unknown. Olfactory. Unknown. Tactile. Unknown. Gustatory. Unknown. Other notes. Several life forms of the types described by D25684 appear with subject. Subject is killed, and life forms, data expunged. Area is sterilized. Item number: SCP-538. Object Class: Euclid. Special Containment Procedures: All instances of SCP-538 are to be contained within a flush white 15 by 15 by 3 meter room, with no fewer than 4 overhead 200-watt lights. These lights are to be centered above a 1 by 2 by 0.5 meter block table, stationed in the center of the containment area, and shining at all times. One Class D personnel in a chemically induced coma is to be kept medically stable upon the table, and will serve as the feed source for all specimens of SCP-538. No source of shade should be present in the room other than that provided by the Class D. If at any point a light in SCP-538's containment area burns out, a crew of 2 security personnel are to be sent in through an adjacent airlock. Personnel are to be equipped with sealed hazardous material suits, complete with independent oxygen tanks, and advised to move slowly and deliberately in order to avoid agitating SCP-538. They are to replace the burnt-out bulb and, upon completion of their task, are to return to the airlock. Once personnel are isolated within the airlock, they are to be flushed with 300-watt white light in order to assure no instances of SCP-538 are clinging to their person. If at any time all 4 lights are to go out simultaneously, the chamber is to be sealed along with all observation ports. Until means of relighting SCP-538's chamber are available, the containment area is to remain in lockdown. If at any time personnel are bitten by SCP-538, the infected individual must be placed within SCP-538's chamber as soon as possible. Failure to do so could result in massive breach of containment and will result in termination of responsible individual. Note: security personnel are to be periodically screened for any unusual phobias. Any personnel found to exhibit any degree of arachnophobia is to be reassigned. Description: SCP-538 appears to be animate shadows of an unknown species of spiders. SCP-538 appears to feed off of the shadows of other living objects, and will move to the nearest shadow cast by a living organism. To feed, SCP-538 does no more than attach itself to the shadow of its host, in such a manner that its own shadow is not obscured. Through this manner, a single specimen of SCP-538 can grow up to approximately 15 square centimeters in size. Feeding after this point appears to simply maintain this size. The whole process has so far proven to be harmless to the host. While a specimen can attach itself to an inanimate object to feed, it will slowly atrophy and decrease in size over time. Only when connected to the shadow of a living organism can SCP-538 thrive. SCP-538 has shown itself capable of going short distances through open, well-lit areas, such as to reach a nearby host, or to escape a source of agitation. However, it will rapidly decrease in size at a rate of nearly 2 square centimeters per second, for the length of time it is not attached to a shadow. Should a specimen be stranded out in the open long enough, it will eventually decrease to nothing, at which point it can be considered deceased. Top land speed has been observed at approximately 1 meter per second when at maximum size. SCP-538 has shown itself to be capable of slipping through cracks greater than 3 millimeters in height. Spaces less than this distance appear impassable. While generally benign, SCP-538 can and will attack its host if frightened. Frightening SCP-538 generally involves a rapid movement by its host, at which point it will bite the organism's shadow before attempting to flee. Bite must occur on bare skin to cause effects. Clothing material consisting of cotton or anything sturdier will provide sufficient protection. Upon being bitten, an individual will go through 5 different stages within the space of an hour. Note that bitten individuals may attempt to hide their condition. Therefore, any individual exhibiting the following symptoms must be contained immediately. Stage 1. Upon agitation, SCP-538 will bite the shadow of its aggressor. Subject will report pain in relative area bitten on shadow. However, no puncture or wound will appear in this location. Subject will quickly become irritable, snapping at those around him. Stage 2. 10 to 15 minutes after being bitten, subject will begin perspiring heavily, but may report feeling cold. Skin will become red and warm to the touch. Stage 3. 25 to 30 minutes after being bitten, subject will become violent and aggressive, attempting to start conflict with those around him. Speech will be slurred, and motor skills may be impaired. Subject will resort to violence, often attacking those closest to him. Stage 4. 40 to 45 minutes after being bitten, subject's skin color will turn pale and paste-colored, and their core temperature will drop between 5 and 8 degrees Celsius. Subject will be apologetic to those around him, and may cite that he was not feeling well. Subject will attempt to excuse himself and retreat to a darker area. Stage 5. 55 to 60 minutes after being bitten, subject will data expunged. Resulting fluid will be completely translucent and harmless. Subject's shadow will have at this point completely disintegrated into smaller specimens of SCP-538, approximately 4 square centimeters in area, and, for the lack of a better term, should be considered its offspring. There is currently no cure for being bitten by SCP-538. Death has proven to be ineffective at halting advancement of the condition, but rather skips the process directly to Stage 5. Addendum 538A. As a result of Incident I-538A, no fewer than 2 security personnel, equipped with 2 250-watt flashlights, are to be sent in to accompany Doctor examining Class D. Incident Report I-538A. Data expunged. Site Sector Containment Chamber 538. Doctor enters Containment Chamber 538 for a routine checkup of D-7821, equipped with standard-issue fully sealed hazardous materials suit. 2 minutes and 23 seconds into examination, attack by the Chaos Insurgency cuts power to sectors through. As per protocol, chamber completely sealed and locked, trapping Dr. inside with SCP-538. Power remains cut off for an additional 23 minutes until backup generators are powered up and patched into the power grid. As per protocol, power was not routed to SCP-538's containment cell, but rather to sector containing at the time. Power subsequently routed through to the next highest level priority containment cells. As SCP-538 was sufficiently contained at the time, it was deemed minimum priority. No major containment breaches were reported. Attack repelled quickly and with minimum casualties. Site engineers worked to restore power. 18 hours after Chaos Insurgency attack, power finally reaches SCP-538 containment cell. A sobbing Dr. is escorted from the chamber, claiming he could, quote, feel them crawling, end quote, all over him. Doctor undergoes psychological therapy for his newfound arachnophobia. Containment protocol updated. Doctor was reassigned. Lesson complete. To continue with your orientation training, subscribe to SCP Orientation right now, and make sure you don't miss any of our upcoming videos.